This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me as usual are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
This week we've got 8 films to review. We're going to kick off with Tin Soldier, few faces in that one. Then we have a new post-apocalyptic movie called 40 Acres. Then something a bit more sort of supernatural called St. Clare. Then we have Osiris. Following that up with FUTRA Days and The Activated Man, which stars Tony Todd. Then we have The Banished, set in the Australian outback, and rounding off with a bit of Mancunian / Liverpudlian. I don't know which one it is, to be honest. Sort of crime drama, Reputation. Our short shot is Charlie Foxtrot, directed by Janine Pipe. And then we have our DTV throwback. This was recommended to me by a friend of the show, Raymond Wright, Sword of Heaven. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is Tin Soldier. An army general goes rogue and develops a PTSD treatment program into a cult, leading the FBI to stage a siege and plan to invade their compound. Meanwhile, a former member of the cult has informed his wife, thought to be dead, may be alive and held captive. Interesting one, this, guys. Good cast. Led by Scott Eastwood. Then we have the likes of Jamie Foxx, and for a long period of the film, I'm going, is that Robert De Niro, for fuck's sake? And lo and behold, yes, it is Robert De Niro. It's an interesting setup. It does sort of like meander a bit. I wasn't totally enthused by the music, and some of the editing was a bit sort of like scattershot, but overall, it's a little bit different. It's quite sort of high end sort of DTV stuff. There's a couple of big sort of set pieces that go into this. Not as good as I was hoping, but I still did enjoy it. Steve, what did you make of Tin Soldier?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was very surprised, to be fair. When it started, because it's on Prime at the minute.
Yeah.
So when you go onto it, you got the picture of Robert De Niro straight away. I'm like, oh, hang on. And then Jamie Foxx turned up, and Scott Eastwood, and even John Leguizamo's in it as well. And the first couple of minutes, I'm thinking, I don't really know what this is. And then it kicks into the story. And yeah, I enjoyed it. The only thing that got me was it's a bit like timey-wimey jumpy. You're middle of a scene, and then it flashes back to like something else, and then comes back. And also the last 10, 15 minutes, where it basically turns into Bloodsport.
Yeah.
I was like, what the? It just comes out of nowhere. But like you say, the production value I thought was definitely higher end than normal. Like especially in that scene and the scenes at the dam and stuff like that. Again at the end, I thought it was actually really well shot. Like I say, a couple of bits of the editing were a bit jarring, and the flashbacks, like within a scene, then coming back to the scene.
Yeah,
it threw me off a little bit. I'm like, hang on, is it? Yeah, right. You can tell with the haircut, basically. But yeah, overall, yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Cool. Yeah. Rich, what did you make of Tin Soldier?
So I'm probably not as positive on it as you guys. I do see what you're saying, and I do agree that it's definitely aiming higher. It's got some good quality stuff in it. I think it's whether it was hampered by budget restrictions or something, but you can see that they're trying to make a bigger film than they can afford. And there's some of the scenes like really sort of scale back, and it's like so. For example, that big set piece at the end where Steve says goes Bloodsport. You're supposed to have all the people chanting, and they sort of add it in as sort of sound because they can't afford to actually show the big crowds and stuff around. And there's some other bits and pieces. It is very sort of stylized in the shooting. A lot of effort. I mean, there's a lot of explosions in this, so probably more than I would expect to see in your standard sort of DTV action movie or thriller. So I was quite impressed with the amount of action there was. I just think in terms of some of the stylization and that, which I've looked up because I didn't know the director, and I've looked him up, and he does do music videos. He's actually done major theatrical releases, including The Lincoln Lawyer with Matthew McConaughey and City of Lies with Johnny Depp. But the here it's so I haven't seen those films, so I don't know how music video they are. But here it was annoying me a bit, and say the flashbacks and all over the place. It did meander, and it's got this very serious tone to it, very sort of melancholy sort of it's taking itself very seriously. The film very much seems to be paying homage or riffing on, or touching base with Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, which funny enough I watched this week, so yeah, I mean that was very much in my mind.
But then the film I actually ended up being more reminded of was another another DTV
Universal Soldier.
Movie.
Universal Soldier. Dave Reckoning. Yeah,
because that itself was an Apocalypse Now sort of
homage.
Homage, because the whole thing with basically because we haven't set it up, I think Scott Eastwood was in a cult. He's left the cult, and now this other department or whatever want to send him back inside to bring the cult down. And so he's on a mission, and they keep doing this voiceover stuff every now and again, which is very Apocalypse Now and Platoon.
Yeah.
And so then he's going in basically to find Jamie Foxx's character, who's taken to calling himself the Bakushi, which just sounds ridiculous. And then he, as one of the acolytes, was called a Shinji. Or Shinja. Again, so they've got this kind of Japanese sort of thing going on, but they don't really develop that. So I don't really know what's behind that. So that was a bit weird. They got these funny names. It didn't add anything to the film. So he's gone in, and basically, so Jamie Foxx would therefore be the Marlon Brando Kurt's character, or in terms of Day of Reckoning, it was Jean-Claude Van Damme. I think this is a film that kind of sits below. I would say it sits below Day of Reckoning, although it's got a really good cast. Day of Reckoning did this better. I think it plays with it. It does it did everything a lot of the things that this film was doing, including the whole revenge plot that motivates the hero. That he wants to go back and get revenge because he lost his partner. It's a family thing. Same as in Day of Reckoning. I think Scott Adkins did a lot better. Plus, that was that had a lot of great action in it as well. Here, there is action in terms of fights and stuff, but it's very badly shot. There's a lot of close-ups and edits, stuff that and we're going to talk about some, at least one film later where you can really see what's going on. It's like a lot. And here, it's just, I say, an over-stylized kind of thing. The showdown fight was a real surprise to me, where it suddenly went all, as Steve was saying, blood sport. It was very odd, but I quite, quite cool. Again, that made me think of Day of Reckoning because it's a fight. But yeah, so I think I don't love Scott Eastwood. I thought he was okay, but overall, I thought this film was bringing in a lot of ideas. They're trying to set up this whole cult thing, the PTSD thing that becomes a cult, and they really try and develop that. But I don't think it quite, I don't think they've made it work as well as they needed to make you really be convinced that this would be a viable belief system. it doesn't, it's an interesting idea, and they try, but say it doesn't really quite pan out. They do some stuff with Scott Eastwood, and there's a whole dwelling on his romance and stuff, which actually made me think of the film Fortress with Christopher Lambert.
Oh yeah.
It just popped into my head because they do this kind of escape sequence and stuff. They try to escape, yeah. So I think it's. Here's the other thing. Just one last thing I'm going to say. The film can't decide what the title is. So at the front of the film, it's called The Tin Soldier, and at the end of the film, it's called Tin Soldier. Why couldn't they just pick?
Weird.
So there just seems a lack of, for some reason, a lack of attention to detail on that front. So whether there was some meddling or something, I don't know. The film had, I think, a lot of production companies and stuff involved. So I can remember there being a lot of opening titles. It's not a Randall Emma or anything like that, but it's in a slightly different category, I think. But it's still a case of it might have been a case of too many cooks in the kitchen for it, because it is, I believe, an independently put together film. It's not made by, it's on Amazon, but it's not been made by Amazon. I think they've independently. So yeah. And Jamie Foxx does a whole preaching, singing sequence, which again I don't think really fits. but it's a bit all over the place. But yeah.
There's one final niggle from me on this one is early on, Scott Eastwood's character is moping around, depressed, and somebody says to him, "Well, it's not your fault that that his wife ended up drowning in the river or something." He's like, "Well, yeah, it's my fault," all this. And then you see the accident or see the incident later in the film, and it's like, in what world are you blaming yourself for this? It's clearly not your fault. There are other people involved in what happened. It's ridiculous to start moping around, and blaming yourself for that. Anyway,
again, maybe that was like maybe they changed it during production or something.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, if you can't die this way, you got to change the scene or whatever. I don't know.
Imagine being an
I've
editor.
got some questions. I'm not going to say them now, but I've got a couple of queries of like, well, hang on a minute. If what happened with such and such or whatever, which I'll talk about off air.
But can you imagine being an editor on a film like this, where there's sort of like redoing dialogue or refilming bits to try and fit, and you're trying to put the film together, you sort of like go, shit. You just put me in a bloody corner now. I've got to try and dig my way out of it. Okay, so scores on the doors. And Steve?
I'll give it a 7.
And Rich?
I'm going to give it a 6. I'm just going to say the cast, there is a reasonable cast, but they're wasted. Like John Leguizamo doesn't really get anything to do. And Robert De Niro had only like a couple of scenes and stuff. There's not really a lot for these guys to do. Even I think Jamie Foxx probably gets the most to do, but
he does.
He's, 6 out of 10 for me.
I'm going to go a 6 on this one as well. So there we have 2 6s and a 7 for Tin Soldier. As Rich mentioned, it's on Amazon Prime. Go check it out. Our next film is 40 Acres. Set in a post-apocalyptic world where 95% of the planet's food sources have been wiped out by a deadly fungus, the Freeman family defend their farm from ecological disasters and the threat of marauders, and worse. You guys missed a treat with this one, I have to say. We do have a screener, so if you get the chance, take a look. This is great stuff. It starts with, actually, it starts very similar to Superman, with the same sort of narration. You know where it comes up in Superman. It's like 3,000 years ago this happened. 300 years ago this happened. 30 years ago. You get something like that come up, sort of explaining, how far in the future we are since this disaster and how people have coped with it. There's been civil wars in America and stuff. This is set in Canada. The Freeman family are ostensibly black, The husband is actually Native American or Native Canadian, I should say. And they have about sort of 3 or 4 kids. The oldest is Emmanuel or Manny. He's probably about sort of 17. And together as a family, they defend, this farm. And the film starts with a dozen people breaking in. And you don't know at the beginning whether or not the people breaking in are the good guys or the people in the farm are the good guys. It's only until the dust settles that we know which way sort of the wind's blowing. So we get a great opening, and then it sort of kind of settles down a bit into the routine. And I was very much reminded of A Quiet Place during this. We have sort of the matriarch played by Danielle Deadweiler, who is she's a seasoned veteran who's sort of come back home to lead the family. She checks the radio a lot. She checks in on the other farms in the area, and she learns that there's a marauding, like almost an army of cannibals going from farm to farm and just wiping everyone out. And that becomes sort of the big threat in the sort of third act, basically. But in the meantime, sort of the middle part of the film is more about Manny meeting a young girl from another farm and becoming a bit smitten with her. And when she comes to them for help, he kind of hides her away in case her mum finds her, because her mum's like, she'll just kill her basically because she's an intruder, sort of thing. So that becomes the sort of the second act, and then the third act is when the shit hits the fan, basically. This is very, very strong stuff. Really, really well done. I was reminded also a bit of The Domestics, which is another post-apocalyptic film, mainly because of the setting, because it's rural America. We're used to sort of in the 80s, a post-apocalyptic movie would be in the desert. It'd be filmed in Italy or somewhere, in a quarry, or it'll be in Australia and it'll be in the desert. It's that sort of thing. But this isn't. It's it's just in woodland. It's in trees. It's very different. I really, really like this one. Very, very good stuff. And that's why I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. Our next film is Saint Clare. High school student Clare Bleeker has recently moved to a new school where she attempts to make new friends. But Clare has a secret. She has a mission from God to hunt down bad people, and so far she's gotten away with it, but seems that she may have bitten off more than she can handle now. This was excellent. I absolutely loved this film. Wasn't sure I was going to at the beginning, as usual, but it settles down. I think when she gets into that guy's car is when it starts sort of really starting to click for me. But yeah, this was great. I absolutely loved it. Clare Bleeker, played by I've forgotten the name now. Bella Thorn, is really great. She has a like a supernatural partner who she didn't actually kill, but she happened to be present when he sort of died, and it's sort of all a bit complicated. But he sort of like comes along and he's sort of trying to help her, but is he much of a help? And you don't know whether or not he's actually real or not until the very end, which I thought was great. But yeah, I just really, really like this one. Rich, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I liked it. So it's a good quality. I mean, Bella Thorne is kind of synonymous. I know she don't do theatrical features and stuff, but she's quite synonymous with DTV stuff. Yeah. And I think she's probably like at the top tier of like DTV stars, I would say. She's all of her films are generally of a very good standard. And even say she's had some missteps, like the theatrical. She made a theatrical Amityville horror movie, which was direct to video and whatever over here, and it was a terrible film. But that wasn't her fault. But she, I would say in general, she turns up in all sorts of sort of indie horror and stuff specifically. But I thought she was a good choice for this. She fits it well. The film is well made. The character's quite interesting. We've seen this kind of stuff before in different contexts. More recently, something like Dexter would be a good comparison, because that's somebody sort of where the character has somebody who appears to them, let's say, or companies. It's kind of an American Werewolf in London kind of thing in this case, where the guy's sort of really sort of in disrepair. But the that kind of that element is in there, and it sort of drops away at part of the story. But I thought it worked quite nice. You got Frank Whaley as that character. He's great. I feel like we don't see him that much anymore, but he used to be around all the time. He was in loads of stuff. And then we've got Ryan Phillippe in there as well. He's good. Rebecca De Mornay, who I didn't recognise for a while, is in it. So it's good cast, good story. It's based on a novel called Clare at 16, which was published, I think, just a few years ago. But I don't know if the character has appeared in multiple novels, but I think I'd be curious to check out the book and see what that was. But yeah, I thought it was good. It's as the title indicates, saying she is a Catholic schoolgirl, but say she's got this kind of serial killer kind of thing going on. It's like you're not quite sure, is she just imagining that, or is it real, or whatever? And it's like, so that's all part of the. Yeah, it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, Ryan Phillippe was really good in this, as well as sort of the cop who starts sort of noticing sort of Claire having to be around trouble a lot, or adjacent to trouble.
She's got she's trying to stay ahead, and there comes you get a little bit of a cat and mouse thing kind of happening.
Yeah, it works really well. That bit at the end, I won't spoil what it is, but I thought it was a great capper to it, because it puts some of the rest of the film into perspective. When she finds that final piece of the puzzle, when Bob the mailman tells her something at the end, and then you see her it's all those other sort of conversations that she overheard sort of fall into place, and little things that she's seen, and how she deals with it as well. I thought was a great ending. I absolutely loved it. Yeah, this is it's a contender for me for the top 10 of the year. Thoroughly enjoyed this one. What are you going to score it, Rich?
This is definitely a 7 for me.
It's an 8 for me. A 7 and an 8 for Saint Clair. I will say also, I did sort of put this on Blue Sky as well. I was reminded, mainly because of the subject matter. She's up against sort of a cabal of sex traffickers, but it did remind me of another film I've seen called Bound to Vengeance a few years ago. So if you get a chance to check that out as well, definitely worth doing. But yeah, an 8 and a 7 for St. Clair. Go check it out. Our next film is Osiris. A team of Special Forces soldiers are abducted by a spaceship mid-mission and find themselves in a cat-and-mouse scenario with deadly alien warriors. Okay, so this is the latest film from William Kaufman, somebody I like a lot as a filmmaker. Did films like The Channel, Sinners and Saints, Daylight's End, One in the Chamber with Dolph and Cuba Gooding Jr., I believe, in that one.
And you get this with Cuba Gooding Jr. as well.
That's it, yeah.
I think it was
Yeah, very, very good sort of action director, basically. I think he may have bitten off a little bit more than he can chew with this one. It's got a great setup and everything, but it does sort of basically devolve into a lot of running around corridors. And unfortunately, there is one character who, I guess they turned to him and said, "We want you to do Hudson, but really, really annoying." And they don't have the decency to kill him off for a long period of the film. So some of the times he's fine, and sometimes he just starts getting into his game over man sort of routine. And even the other characters are telling him to shut the fuck up, for God's sake. You know, he's supposed to be a professional soldier, for God's sake. You know, get a grip. But I did like it a lot. I think that gets to one point. You know, when they end up sort of running into this sort of cargo hold with all these sort of cargo containers. And they're trying to sort of set up one of the, they're trying to get this sort of captain of the aliens, basically, who they call Scar, they're trying to lead him into a trap. And I have to admit, listening to the film on headphones, the cacophony of sound which was coming out, this sort of what they do with the soundtrack, I thought was excellent. And it is this sort of pulse pounding sort of mess of sound, and I thought it was great. And that sort of got me back on board at that point, because it's managed to give itself a bit of breathing space by then. He's getting a bit more sort of exposition. Linda Hamilton comes into it. We learn a bit more about what's going on. It's not just sort of running around shooting. It does eventually sort of settle down a bit, which I did enjoy. So yeah, overall, I did like this, but I did feel that Kaufman was a little bit out of his depth for certain stretches. How did you feel about it?
I think it's obvious that he's making his homage to especially Aliens, but also Predator, and he's adding a few other things in, like references to the Terminator, especially with the casting of Linda Hamilton. There's definitely a Terminator 2 vibe and stuff going on. But Aliens is the sort of principal one. But I felt it kind of drops you into the action, literally drops you into the action. And it doesn't actually take any time to really develop the characters or anything. And I know, so a film like Predator doesn't have a lot of characterization, but it's just enough. You develop an interest. You actually care about these characters, and we've got Max Martini in basically what is the Dutch role, the Arnold Schwarzenegger role. He's the leader of the group, and we've got all these, and we could say we've got the rest of the team who, again, they're like you were saying about the Hudson character, they're a bit more like the characters in Aliens than Predator, but even the ones in Aliens, there was just a bit much, just enough characterization, that you cared. You remember Vasquez and stuff. You remember them, and these guys were just kind of there's nothing to connect with. The film just kind of drops you into a very long sort of firefight sequence. You don't even know what they're fighting about. So it's kind of like, unless I miss, because there's no, like what you were saying about the previous film, and like a little prologue kind of thing on the text. We don't get anything like that.
Nope.
We don't know what's going on, do we?
Nope.
No. So so that happens, and then they're taken up into the ship. You mentioned that thing about the containers. Well, I was watching that scene thinking, aliens have containers. But anyway, that's an aside. But I would say that the film itself, in terms of production design and the cinematography and the visual effects and the practical effects and that, the standard is very high. It's very good.
Very much so, yeah.
But there's a caveat to that when you can see it, because the whole film is very dark, and unfortunately, I find that when I try to watch screener links on using my computer, it's always the brightness is always degraded. So no matter how much I turn up the brightness, I've always got it on full. I still couldn't see quite. It was that Alien versus Predator kind of problem. I still couldn't really see some of what was going on. In the second half of the film, after Linda Hamilton joins, she comes in about an hour in. I didn't feel that was as much of a problem. The lighting was a bit bolder, and I felt I could see a lot more, and I was engaging with the film a bit better from that point. I think it does feel at times like it's just endless shooting. So like beep, 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 plasma guns sort of thing. And like you said, running around the corridors and stuff. I don't mind that too much. I did think the alien design and stuff was really good. There's a bit like in Predator that you get a kind of a final showdown between one of the soldiers and the leader of the aliens, which I thought worked really well. It was really good. I thought that was a really well done sequence. I thought it was,
But it's
shot really well.
there's a textbook bit of foreshadowing as well in that, because it's something one of the characters early on says something, and of course, oh yeah, it comes true at the end. Yeah, very much. Also, another homage right at the end. We get a homage to.
Do we want to say it? I don't know. It gives away the ending.
Yeah. Well.
So I would say let's not say that one. But I know exactly what I know where you're going with it. That's why I'm so cautious, because I think it's a reasonable reference. I think it's quite a fun way to end it.
Yeah.
But it does sort of just really sort of hammer home how much this is William Kaufman saying, these are all the sci-fi movies I really love.
Yeah.
And kind of putting them all in there. So I would say, but I feel this, where it's like paying homage to like the Predator movies and stuff. I think like Predators is a more close reference, because that was a film that kind of sort of came and went, and you didn't really care about the characters and stuff. And I think that's a problem here. It's interesting that Max Martini gets the leading role. He doesn't always do that. He's been around for ages, and I do think he looks a bit like Johnny Messner. So I thought,
he does a bit. Yeah.
But he's not quite had the career. He's kind of deviated all over the place with action roles and sort of drama and stuff like that. And he does directing and things like that as well. So he's a very busy guy, but he's not really that well known. So I thought it was quite cool that he got to play the lead, but they didn't give him enough to work with, I didn't think. So that was, and then all the people around him. We've got a character, a young girl character. Here we go with the new kind of thing, aliens. She kind of reminded me of the girl in Logan.
It's funny. Well, close.
Actually from Deadpool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But she was in Deadpool and Wolverine, but not as the character, not as the person I was thinking.
Yeah.
So the actress from Logan is in Deadpool and Wolverine, but this actress is the one who played Negasonic
Teenage Warhead. Yeah.
Brianna Hildebrand. So so she's in there, and so we've got Linda Hamilton, who's pretty cool. She gets to come in and basically do lots of exposition and a little bit of other stuff, and then basically she's out of the movie. So yeah, it's okay, it's all right. I would have preferred if I could have seen what was going on a bit more, and if it was a bit short, because it's like an hour and 45 minutes or so long. Could have done with. Because it doesn't have any of that characterization.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Where's the time going? That opening sequence didn't need to be that long. They could have really cut that down. I mean, it was fine. I mean, it was well done, but I didn't really have. The stakes weren't apparent. I didn't really understand who was who and what was going on or whatever. But in Predator 2, that opens up and you go in and the gang war's happening. And stuff. I think they do like news broadcasts and stuff, and it kind of puts things in some context. And then Danny Glover comes. It's a great sequence. I love Predator 2, but it's really a great way to start the film. This one is it's trying to do a similar thing, but it lacks any of that context.
It doesn't give the characters any room to breathe, does it? That's where we're going. So the practical effects and the production values of the aliens and the design of the costumes and things, because these guys are sort of like about a good foot or so taller than sort of the human characters. It did remind me a bit of Skyline, 2 and 3, basically. But the difference is Skylines gave its characters a chance to develop. It had different locations for things to happen in. This is all set in a couple of corridors, basically, which it becomes very samey after a while, which is a shame. It does open up, like we said. We do get this sort of bigger room with all the containers, which does allow for a bit of sort of parkour and all this sort of stuff going on, and a bit of sniping as well. But yeah, I'd say it's a good effort up to a point, but I think I think the budget ran out with the location. Basically, that they got the design of the aliens and everything, and the weapons. I like the shields, those sort of laser shield things that the aliens had, and that. I thought it was all really good stuff. But yeah, they just didn't have enough to sort of develop it to push it further than running up and down corridors for 90 minutes, which is a shame. What are you going to score it?
Because of my, I've got a couple of reservations. It's going to be a 6.
Yeah, I want to give it a 7. I do, but I think my own standards say I can't. No, I would give it a 7 just because it's Kaufman, but I'm not gonna. It's a 6. So 2 6s for Osiris. We did like it up to a point. Go check it out. Our next film is FUTRA DAYS. After undergoing an experimental time travel process that sends a man into his own future, a man investigates who he has become by engaging in a romance with his future self's girlfriend in a mind-bending reality. Boy, this guy's got some red flags, Rich.
It's me.
Sorry. Boy, this man's got some red flags, Steve.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do have to wonder up to a point why his girlfriend doesn't recognize the fact that he's got a different haircut and he's got less stubble than he had when he left that morning. She seems to take it for granted. I'll say up front, I did kind of like this. I wasn't sure I was going to, but I did kind of like it. It's not even a romantic drama. It's a drama. It's a relationship drama between this guy and his girlfriend. We see late on the film how they met. It's all very cutesy and everything. We see where their relationship has ended up when he first jumps to the future and he spies on himself. He's barely talking to her. He wants, he's leaving on some mysterious trip. He's out of there. He's left her distraught. And this guy just sort of sidles in and pretends to be his future self. But a nice version of the future self, basically. And it all goes swimmingly up to a point until she realizes what's going on. Because there's stuff that he's forgotten about, or he doesn't know about that 3-year interval that he sort of jumped into or jumped over. And that sort of makes things a lot worse. And then there's stuff that he hadn't even bothered to check about his own sort of situation, which is quite amusing. It all becomes a big mess for him, and rightfully so. He was warned at the beginning, if you want to just, a safe ride, don't touch anything, don't do anything kind of thing. He goes in and just totally messes everything up. What did you make of this one, Steve?
I couldn't stand it, to be honest. I thought it was confusing. The characters, there was nothing to grab onto with them. I just hated more or less all of them. And I just thought they were really annoying. And like you say, he's an absolute arsehole. I mean, there's one, they're having a row at one point, and you just think, you're an absolute twat. The stuff you're coming out with is awful. I mean, and then she obviously retaliates in the same way. And I just didn't think any of the characters were likable in any way, shape, or form. And no, I just didn't get along with it at all. I just thought it was so bleak and melancholic and kind of depressing. Like you said, the meet cute where he first meets in the clothes shop.
Yeah.
Thought that was quite nice and quite sweet. But after that, any other part of it, I just thought was just depressing. Yeah, it really didn't get to me at all.
Not even when they're sort of doing their fake British accents in the restaurant.
No.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was cute.
No.
No. Well, I like, as I said, I did sort of get into this one a bit. So some of the editing, especially, there's a thing at the moment. We reviewed a film, or I reviewed a film a few weeks back, called Escape to the 21st Century. And I had a sort of a very sort of oversaturated style of editing, so lots of images sort of being blasted at you. And this kind of goes down that route at times.
Yeah.
It hits you with stuff and you're thinking, well, what's that all about? I did like also the sort of very trippy visuals for when he does travel to the future as well. I
Yeah.
thought that sequence was quite good. There's a few other bits like he meets his friend who's a writer who's the one who put him up to this in the first place,
Yeah.
and he knows what he's doing. He figures out because like he's going, wait a minute, you're not meant to be here. You got on some super secret trip to Las
Yeah.
Vegas or something, and he sort of clocks it. He go, oh, and he gets in his face about it. So that was like the beginning of the end, really, as far as that's concerned. But yeah, no, it was. I did sort of like it, I must admit. I liked where it ended up. So yeah, I thought it was different. It's not an action movie. It's not a horror movie. It's it's a relationship drama with a little bit of sci-fi trappings attached to it.
Yeah.
Is what it basically boils down to. But yeah, for me personally, it worked. For you, it didn't. That's fair enough.
No, I mean, like I say, he's just
He was a
just a
complete.
dick.
He is a git. He absolutely is
Yeah.
a selfish git. If he'd gone to her in the first place and said, "Oh, hi, I'm from the past. I want to sort of try and fix things or whatever," and then maybe have sat down and had a conversation with her, or maybe she just sort of slammed the door in his face and going, "No, you got to figure it out for yourself." But he doesn't. He tries to pass himself off as his future self being nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know, crappy.
No.
All right, what are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 5.
All right, I'm giving it a 7. There you go, guys. It is a 5 and a 7. Mileage will definitely vary on this one.
Yeah.
But anyway, go check it out. Our next film is The Activated Man. After Oz loses his beloved dog to cancer, the trauma produces strange visions that force him to wrestle with two possibilities: that his mind has fractured or it's actually real. I had a tagline for this, Steve.
Go on.
By the power of God. No, I did it wrong. Fuck. By the power of Todd, I compel thee. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna leave that in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a weird one. It is a very weird one. For one thing, we got Tony Todd playing a good guy once, which is interesting in itself, and we got some very strange special effects in here, but we do also get sort of a decent character played by Kane Hodder. I thought the character, that particular character looked pretty good. That's all fine. And there's other scenes that I did like. I liked it overall, but it took a while to sort of get going, because part of me sort of going, sorry, this is all because of his dog dying. Is that what I was trying to tell me? But, not to denigrate people who, get really attached to their dogs and things, but it seemed a bit weird. Okay, what did you make of this one?
Yeah, it is very strange at the beginning. I mean, it takes, to be fair, because it is quite a long film. It's nearly more or less 2 hours, and the first hour, it just takes a while to get going. But I did like the twist at the end about who it was that was causing it and everything like that.
Yeah.
But it's very weird and quirky. There's like, you've got Tony Todd playing his next door neighbor, who's a really nice guy, but he's also like a psychic medium. Who's like one of the best in the world, and visions of his dog mean that he's a good bloke or something. It was just a little bit, it's just a little bit too strange how the whole thing kicks off.
Yeah, it is weird.
And You know, like his mum being like shut in and things like that. But it can remind me of Poltergeist too, in a way.
Yes, I was going to say because it's funny, isn't it? Because Tony Todd's character is almost like the good version of the tall man in
Yeah,
Poltergeist 2, and at the same time you've got Kane Hodder's
the f-
character, who
yeah,
is very similar as well in sort of the way he looks.
mm,
Mm.
yeah. And then yeah, it's just quite bizarre. I mean, it's not as weird as like what that Franco Freaky whatever we watched the other week. Anything?
Freaky
Nowhere.
Franco, yeah.
Yeah, nowhere near like that. But it and it does tie itself up quite well. You know, it
Mm.
puts what's out there. It ties it all up nicely at the end and stuff. But it's just the journey getting there. It's really weird and freaky. I mean, I like the visuals as well. You know, especially like the bits of the psychic powers. You know, like the balls
Mm.
of energy and stuff around him and stuff. And even the visions of his dog. It looks quite cheap, but it
It's
fits in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of cute, isn't it?
Yeah,
The way they did
yeah,
it is quite different. I thought it was quite good. There's yeah, there are some interesting scenes where he starts using his sort of his psychic powers and things.
mm,
Because again, like these quite sort of cheap 80s effects
yeah,
kind of thing. But
yeah,
it's quite quaint. There is one scene I really liked actually where um this creature or whatever is sort of it draws out sort of negative energy,
mm,
and he and his girlfriend end up in this really horrific sort of like shouting
yeah,
match for a
yeah,
bit,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then and then luckily Tony Todd comes in with some pie or something, and
yeah,
they sort of realize they're like, oh my god, what the hell was that? It's like just where did that come from? Really, that was really really well done. I thought as well.
yeah,
Yeah, no, this was it's different, it's quirky, it's probably a bit too long for its own good.
mm.
But if you want something a little bit different, I'd say check this one out. And on that note, what are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 6.
Yeah, 6 is fair, definitely. 2 sixes for the Activated Man. I think this is one of Tony Todd's final films as well. And he gets a lot of screen time in this.
Yeah,
He's not. It's not a cameo or something. He's definitely a proper character in there.
mm.
So there you have it. 2 sixes. Go check it out. Next on our list is The Banished. Following the death of their father, a young woman called Grace searches for her brother. Lost and injured in the outback, she's drawn towards a voice on her walkie-talkie, but starts to have doubts. But is it too late? So this is it's an interesting one. It's mostly a one-hander by this character called Grace. She's searching for her brother, who she's lost contact with for a while. She finds out that he's gone walkabouts, and gets one of their ex-teachers who knows the terrain to take her out there on a trek. But the fucker ditches her during the night, and she wakes up the next morning and all alone. No idea how to get back or anything. And then she picks up a voice on her walkie-talkie, some other guy saying that he's lost as well, and they sort of try and find each other. But as they get sort of closer, she starts to wonder. There's certain things he says and things that makes her start to suspect there's something more going on. But eventually, she ends up in this sort of weird sort of commune kind of thing. It's a very trippy film. It does sort of jump around in its sort of timeline a bit, and it is another one of these films which sort of hits you with image after image after image in a sort of like scattershot way. But it does have a good soundtrack. It is quite well acted, and it goes very freaky at the end. This sort of these people living out in the wilderness wearing these weird sort of paper mache masks, sort of all distorted faces and stuff. It's very, very strange. I did like this one. I think the location and the terrain that she's covering makes it more interesting for sure. And it does sort of go a bit sort of cultish at the end as well. Sort of things going on. It's a weird one, and it is probably a bit too long for its own good. But even so, I would say this is a solid 6 out of 10. If you like that sort of thing, guys, go check it out. Our last film is Reputation. A drug dealer called Wes begins to question his life choices when his violent partner in crime, Toby, is released from prison. Rich, we covered what was that Shia LaBeouf film we saw last episode?
Salvable.
Oh, yeah.
Which one?
Salvable.
What was it?
Salvable.
Salvable, that was it. Yeah, one with Tyree Cavill. Yeah. Okay. If it wasn't for the boxing, I'd be going deja vu. Because it is a similar sort of thing, you got this guy, everything's fine in his life, he's stealing drugs, he's got a baby on the way, got to marry his girlfriend, this sort of thing, hangs out with his two mates, and then Tommy gets out of prison, and straight away, he's a cunt, first thing you see him doing is shagging this girl, going to come on her face, basically, but because she giggles, she instead punches her in the face and then leaves. But Wes's friends, they know what a cunt this guy is. When they find out he's going to prison, and he's going, "Oh, should we go meet him?" And they're like, "No, I'm still eating my breakfast. Thank you very much. Not interested in this guy." They try and give him as wide a berth as possible, and eventually they do sort of turn around to Wes and go, "The guy's a cunt. You shouldn't. You really, really do not want to be messing with him." And eventually he does learn it himself. He does sort of come to the same sort of conclusion, because they got a good sort of operation going. The drugs come in from Amsterdam, they sell them locally, they get paid, pay their dealer, up the chain, all the rest of it. And then Tommy comes in and goes, "No, we're going to scrap all that. We're going to start making our own pills. We'll sell them ourselves. We'll take all the money." And at that point, so Wes is going, "I thought we were partners." He's going, "No, you were just holding the fort for me while I was in prison." He's like, "Right, that's it. I'm out." But he doesn't like the fact that he wants to get out. He blames his girlfriend. It all becomes very messy. It's a very compelling drama, I have to say. The reputation bit, I think it relates to, there's a moment when the pair of them are pulled over by the police, and Wes is kind of shocked that the coppers know who he is. It's natural that they know who Tommy is. He's just done time and all the rest of it. They're probably keeping an eye on him, but they know who Wes is as well. And he's like, "Why do they know who I am? This isn't what I want with my life," sort of thing. And tries to get out. It becomes very messy, as I said, but it is very compelling. Very sort of like council estate drama, sort of crims and everything. There's a couple of sort of funny bits early on with conversations they have, but yeah, it's interesting. If you like things like Dead Man's Shoes and Salvable that we covered the other week, it's definitely worth a look. I'd give this one a 7 out of 10. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Charlie Foxtrot. In this, two rural authorized police officers arrive at a farm to make an arrest, but find out things go a little bit hairy. Directed by Janine Pipe, who has done a few things around Neil Marshall. She did the books, the behind the scenes books for Dog Soldiers and The Descent, and yeah, she's looking to do a sort of feature based on this this proof of concept. I thought this was pretty good. It's very short. It's only about 5 minutes long. It is literally a snapshot of what's going on. But I think it's this sort of show the sort of gritty realism that she's going for. Rich, what can you tell us about this more?
Oh, well, like you say, it's a proof of concept for a feature film that will be called Indigo. Janine's was going to be proceeding with getting funding for that. She's actually got that on hold at the moment. She's actually raising funds for another proof of concept short called State 11 at the
That's
moment.
right.
But yeah, Charlie Foxtrot say it's I think it was all shot around a farm location, and there's one of you're introduced to. I think it sets everything up that you need for the short story as it unfolds. It's got quite a clear, even though it's a part of the story, it's very much a beginning, middle, and end kind of thing, which I appreciate. So we meet our. This was a problem. This was a thing like we were talking about earlier with Osiris. So you're kind of put into this situation. So here we are with these two cops. They've been sent out to this farm or whatever, and there's a backstory there, and you immediately get the interplay and the banter, and we get a sense of who these characters are, and then they find themselves very quickly in a confrontational situation, and one of the characters, one of the officers has to basically stand up to the main bad guy in the sequence, and we get some gunplay and some fight sequence, some fight going on. I think it sort of gives you a good taster of what she's trying to go for, and I think it was good. It's still, I think it might still be showing around in some festivals, but it has just been released on YouTube.
Yeah,
we got it a few months ago. But we're talking about it now because it is available. It is the festival cut. I think it's really interesting to see that she is a former police officer, and like you say, she's developed these links with Neil Marshall, who's puts his name as an executive producer on this and some of our other work. She's building a network. She's got people like you were talking about Skylines earlier. The director of Skyline.
And JD Duffield as well. She's been working with us, so yeah.
Yeah, and because Liam as well brought so Mike Scott, because those guys do the Action for Everyone podcast. So they've been involved in supporting this, and so she's building a really solid network, and which is more than you see many. Some of these new people who are embarking on a filmmaking career, they don't develop for these kind of
no, that's right.
So that's already pretty impressive. You get if you're able to get a name like Neil Marshall on your film, that's that gets people's attention. And he did. I think I watched another short that Janine did called Footsteps, which is she really wants to do action, but she also does horror. And I thought Footsteps was really good, and that was actually a Neil Marshall edit. So he'd sort of taken a look at the film and made some recommendations, I think, about how to do it. And I think you can see, the sort of influence of things like Dog Soldiers on that film in particular. So that's also worth a look. But yeah, so Charlie Foxtrot, there won't be a film yet, but be something I would definitely look forward to checking out. And if we could, we'll put a link in for supporting her State 11 project as well.
Absolutely,
that would be interesting to see that come off.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see her do more stuff. Absolutely. Steve, what do you make of Farley Chocks? What do you make of Charlie Foxtrot?
To be honest, I thought it felt quite cheap. It didn't really grab me. I can understand, it is like a proof of concept, and it's just one, maybe like one little scene out of the film or whatever it's going to be. But I don't know. It just didn't. It seemed a bit off. It wasn't right in a way. I mean, like the girl who is supposedly holding hostage, gets shot from the gun at the side of her.
Mhm.
You know, blood spatter and all this lot, and it's like, well, how's she been shot? Because the policeman hasn't got a gun. You know, it just seemed a little bit off. And like at the end, and that this is for my sister. You know, there's no leading up to that. It just throws that line in, which seemed a bit odd to me. You think she might have said something earlier on. But like you said, it's a proof of concept. It's 5 minutes long. Hopefully, if they do raise the money to make the actual film, you know, hopefully it will look a little bit better. But I just, like you say, Neil Marshall's put his name to it as well, which when it came up, I was quite surprised about, to be fair. I've not heard of her before. I didn't know she'd done the books and that. But yeah, if they raise the money and they do actually film it, I'll give it a look.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Cool. Yeah, we do not score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out. And we shall put a link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Sword of Heaven. A magic blade made thousands of years ago from the remains of a meteor is stolen by a criminal gang in Japan. A Japanese policeman tracks the gang to California in his quest to get the sword back before it can be put to evil use. That is complete bullshit. That's not what the film's about at all.
Where did that description come from?
That's on IMDb. I'm literally reading off IMDb. No, that's not the story at all. Okay, there is a sword. It was made out of a meteor. That bit is true. But that is not the reason why our Japanese policeman happens to be in Los Angeles. He is there teaching self-defense to the LAPD, basically. This is weird. This is a very, very weird film. The scenes, I mean, at the beginning, we have like the monks, we have the meteors, and then we have the monks making the swords. So these are Chinese Buddhist monks making a Japanese sword for some reason. And then we get a prostitute. Well, no, we don't know that she's a prostitute. She just happens to be walking to a car. Somebody's inside the car and says something like, "You should have paid me my money," and then sort of garrots her. And then we get a scene of our hero, Tadashi Kurosawa, riding around on his motorbike in the dunes, for a good 5 minutes as the credits roll for some reason, before even the film really sort of gets going. One thing I did like about this, I will say, when he's teaching these self-defense moves to these guys, he comes across this sort of burly Irish guy who looks a bit older to be a cadet, and this Irish guy sort of giving him lip and just being a complete arsehole, being a racist arsehole at that, and tries to have a fight with him and gets his arse handed to him. What I liked though is the fact that these two become friends and partners. I thought that was a nice touch. It's like, yeah, okay, I was an asshole, and I should be listening to what you're teaching. And he actually uses the moves, doesn't he, later on in the film? And he goes, "My mate Takashi would be really happy that I pulled that off." That was a really nice touch to it. So what actually happens is that this woman's father steals the sword back from this paramilitary group who are setting up in the sort of Hollywood Hills or something. And at the same time, we have this woman's pimp, basically, who's a complete cunt as well. So you got these sort of two different sort of people at odds with each other. It's a complete mess, but I did get a lot of enjoyment out of watching it, I must admit. Steve, how did you get on with the Sword from Heaven, or Sword of Heaven?
Yeah, it's a charming mess,
Yes, that's
It's kind of like, a better version of, like, was it New York Ninja and stuff like
Mhm.
that? But the story is all over the place. It doesn't really connect until the last 10 minutes. And then you're like, not too sure. But like you say, I did like the Irish guy. And, they keep going to this, well, they call it a club, don't they? But it's obviously like a brothel.
Yeah.
And how he gets chatting up with the madam.
Oh, that was funny as well.
Stuff
Yeah,
like that,
that was a nice touch.
I thought it was quite charming and stuff. And the fight scenes at the end, I thought were pretty good as well. But
Mhm.
like you say, that lead, that pimp or whatever, he's an absolute bastard. He really is a shit. And
Actually, I'll tell you what I watched recently.
Go on.
Have either of you seen a film called Vice Squad with is it Cole Hauser?
No, I've heard of it.
No.
Oh, it's one of his first films. Because he plays a pimp at that one. They're very similar, really evil bastards, basically.
Yeah.
They give pimps a bad name, basically, is what it is. Yeah, but I do recommend it if you get a chance to see it.
And
But
there's a couple of cracking lines as well near the end. He says, like, where do you learn all these fancy moves? He says, watch your Bruce Lee movies.
mhm.
And the guy comes back, well, you should have watched James Bond or something like that. It's like, what? But yeah, it's mid-80s Japanese, well, like Chinese themed cheese, basically. And yeah, it's all right. But it's just, it is all over the place, though. It really is.
Mhm. So apparently this is written by the guy who wrote Invasion USA.
No.
Basically wrote between a whole bunch of Chuck Norris movies.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Also stars Mel Novak and Bill Wallace as well. They're in there. Yeah, I thought this was.
Although that's not Superfoot Wallace, is it?
Yeah, apparently it is. Yeah.
Is it? I
Yeah,
thought it was a different Wallace. Oh no, okay.
According to Raymond, it is. Yeah, so it as Steve said, it's a charming mess as far as we're concerned. What did you make of it, Rich?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I wasn't quite sure about the whether it was Superfoot Wallace because I don't actually. I know the name, but more than I recognise him, so I actually wasn't 100% sure whether it was him. So yeah, so to hear it was him was good. The whole thing is. Yeah, it's all over the place, and it's only 80 minutes, so it crams in like three or four different plot lines, plus a whole bunch of filler stuff. So we've got the sword itself, right, which is kind of a MacGuffin in the story a little bit, but not really. It's kind of very in the background for the most of the film. It's like the film doesn't really even focus on the sword. There's a little bit of mention of it every now and again, and it sort of comes in at the end, and that's about it. For the most of the time, it's the sort of what I think of as the avenging force kind of aspect of it, where it's this bunch of rich guys or whatever, or a bunch of guys, including one who's like paramilitary, and they're sort of building an army and all this sort of stuff. So that's kind of the best part. And one of them, because they're trying to, I think they're trying to get their funds by extorting people, and then if they're not giving them the money, they're killing them.
Oh,
yeah.
The scene with the doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Well, I'll get to that. So
yeah. Sorry.
So there's all this. So they're killing people. So there's a serial killer element to it as well. So they've kind of thrown everything. So you got but what I thought was interesting is Tadashi Yamashita, who's the lead guy here, who is basically a stand-in for Sho Kosugi. And if this was, I could very clear. I mean, especially as it was, because I didn't know it at the time. Especially to find out that it was written by a guy who wrote canon movies, and Tadashi actually did appear in small roles in some canon movies. It does feel like it could have been Ninja 4. It's got that. It's got a very canon Ninja series, unofficial sequel kind of feel to it. Because they were all sort of unrelated, basically. Essentially, the three Ninja films that show Sugi did, and this is a great sort of postscript to those. I think I think that was great, but he's not a ninja. They reference him as a samurai, so I thought that gives it a sort of a different feel. Yeah. So, Mike, you were talking about he meets the racist cop at the beginning, and that's kind of the scene where the hero shows what he's got. That's the introduction. They actually do how they introduce his character over a loudspeaker system.
Oh, that was hilarious.
He is the best. He's come over here to play. It's like, well, there you go. We've established who his character is straight away.
It's like, who is that for other than the audience? It's like, well, the people who he's training know who he is, Oh, it's crazy.
So he has that scene with that guy who thinks, oh yeah, I know better because I know boxing and stuff, and you're not going to beat me. And you feel like that's a throwaway scene. I love the fact that guy comes back and he actually becomes the main character. And I thought there was a very Gene Hackman quality to him, crossed with Ned Beatty. So you've got Gene Hackman and Ned Beatty who were in Superman 4. If you put those two guys together, you've got this guy, Jerry Gibson. I thought he was great, and he was really quite charming in the end. His Irish accent sort of ebbs and flows, but I thought he was a good character, and he's like I think Steve was saying, he ends up sort of charming the madam.
That's a good little flirt.
So there is a little bit of character development and stuff with it, and he does kind of buddy up with Tadashi, who plays a character called Tadashi in that way. The film kind of leads eventually to say you got the reference to Bruce Lee, but you've also got the whole sequence where it basically turns into Enter the Dragon, and he comes and takes on all the army basically, and he rips off the shirt, he gets cut on his chest and whatever, and he starts doing the moves like thing. And I think I was looking at his filmography, and I think he was even he was one of the Bruce Lee clones at one point. Because there's a film where he was credited with Bronson Lee. I think he made a film called Bronson Lee, and then he made another film where he was credited as Bronson Lee. So he's got that. They're doing that sort of Bruce Lee association, but they're saying he's a samurai and say he got the sword, and that's at the end where because he does the whole fight scene, fighting through the going through the bad guys, the military guys. The sword is nowhere in sight, and I'm thinking, when is the sword going to come into play? It does come into play at the end, and we get
the bad guy has to bring it to him.
But do you remember how in the 80s there was this fascination with these sci-fi elements, like making things glow and whatever? So I was thinking of like The Last Dragon with Ty Mack, and the film actually opens with an extended space sequence with the asteroid and whatever, and they make a lot of that, but then it doesn't really go anywhere. When it lands on Earth, the filming suddenly changes, and it looks like somebody's watching, like with a video camera or something, because it goes black on the sides or whatever it is. I think it's just filming problems, but it's a bit of a weird sequence, and then we get to cut to the modern day, and that's when it sort of really kicks in. I say it's all over the place. I loved it. They got the hero cop, Tadashi's got this very heroic theme, which basically, as Comeuppance Reviews guys also noted, sounds a lot like Superman's theme in places.
So the opening music, which is set over the the asteroids and stuff. I'm sort of listening. I'm going, there's bits from like Battle Beyond the Stars and Star Trek Wrath of Khan and things, all mixed in. It was weird. Yeah, I
think it's a very sort of composite kind of approach as well. But I like the music. I thought it was really, it's surprisingly upbeat at stages. We got this. It's very 80s, so we got we reference. It's got the dirt bike riding. Well, they really make the most of that. There's like 4 dirt bike riding sequences. To get their money's worth.
The airplane as well.
That airplane was really cool as well. Yeah, it's sort of single seater little thing. Yeah, that was a really good sequence.
So you've got all these sort of multiple plot strands, but like I said, then you get these filler scenes. So we get a scene where our hero is taken on a tour of Hollywood studios. So we basically get a montage, which is great for a time capsule, but a montage of, you know, shots of CBS and Paramount or whatever for about a minute. And then there's another bit where a random nun murder takes place, and it's clearly
God.
it's clearly supposed to be for laughs. It's like it's a bit awkward.
It is so bad. It is like, how evil could this guy be? Well, you think he's going to just push her down some stairs or something. No, he throws her off a cliff. You know, oh Jesus, that's brilliant.
It's like they said, "Oh yeah, let's do this." I was like, but why? I was like, well, it doesn't matter. Let's just do it.
Yeah, absolutely crazy.
And they apply that sort of logic to other things later. So Tadashi goes undercover for no reason whatsoever, putting on a red dress. He goes undercover. He puts on a red dress, and that scene highlights some of the attitudes of the day, let's say, which are a bit. So we get a little bit of racist language. So we got a couple of lesbian characters here who are credited. In the credits, they're credited with a slur, so that tells you a lot about what they felt about. There's other slurs in the film as well. So it's very of the time. It's not great, but that's how it was then. Unfortunately, it's not bad because it's not bad. It's not too bad because the guy who says something racist at the beginning actually gets
he redeems himself,
and he gets proven wrong, and it actually turns out he's learned his lesson. So there's a little bit of something there. Anyway, but there's this thing about drag in them. Well, I don't like to use the term drag in reference to this, but there's a scene where, like you say, Tadashi gets puts the dress on, but you've also got this sort of domination sort of scene. Where the guy puts on an item of clothing intended for a woman, for no reason whatsoever, and apart from, I suppose, to sort of make the audience titter. I guess it's a sort of S&M and all that sort of thing was one of those, a bit like the workout stuff and what's the other side? The drugs, the reference to heroin and putting in all this stuff like that was people were thinking about in the 80s. It was in the pop culture, films like Personal Services and whatever coming out and all that. So they've sort of added all these elements in. And this film's only 80 minutes long, so they're adding all this stuff in. There's so much going on, and that's aside from the 3 plot lines that happen. But I love that scene where Patrick goes into the brothel. Some guy's trying to kick him out, and he basically does a Steven Seagal. And he does a good job of it. I thought that was a really good, pleasant surprise. I liked it.
Yeah, that's it. Is that he actually did learn something from Tadashi? Yeah, really good. Yeah, okay. We don't score these the throwbacks, but we do, want you to check them out. This one, I don't know. If there's an official DTV release. But
I haven't been able to find one. I think it's a dodgy copy on YouTube that we found. But this needs a Vinegar Syndrome or other someone else. No, I said it needs one. So they need to pick this up. Somebody needs to get this a proper release because this is every bit as entertaining as New York Ninja.
Absolutely, definitely needs.
Ramon pointed us to this, did he?
Raymond writes. He came across it first. He sort of tagged me on it, and I looked it up. Thought, this is definitely something we should be looking at. So thanks very much, Raymond. Thanks very much, Raymond, for letting us know about it. We will put a link to the YouTube copy that we found in the footnotes. So please check it out. And if if anyone knows somebody who knows somebody in the business, maybe sort of get them to watch it too, and get a proper physical release for this. It really deserves one. So there you have it. That is this week's show. Thank you very much, guys. The quality overall was good. I think we've seen a bit of an uptick recently. There's stuff like The Angel of the Warrior, sort of, that's the outlier, but I think we are sort of seeing the end of the the COVID era or the COVID restrictions on film.
Yeah.
You know, the quality of the productions are going up for sure, which is great. You know, and I think this week in particular, we've had quite a wide spectrum of sort of storylines. You know, some stuff we haven't really sort of come across, whether or not it hits or not. You know, it seems that people are expanding and sort of, you know, trying new ideas, which I think is absolutely great. So check us out on Facebook and X and Blue Sky at the DTV Digest. Rich likes to let everyone know what the top 5 DTV releases are in the UK. We will sort of also note any new releases that we haven't covered as well, just so you know what's coming up. Other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.